enforcement tax levy in the city of Humboldt.
Okay, so for this, I've actually got the state form that we filed. This just shows a breakdown. Here, I'll zoom it in a little bit so you can actually read it. It shows a breakdown of the different levies the city uses in property taxes. You can see the bottom one under voted levies. Voted levies right here. Unified law enforcement is $1.13 of the total city levy. We were notified by the Department of Management that we needed to essentially do a redo on this because back in 1980, we could not come up with the information to support the unified law enforcement levy. And so they said, well, moving forward, you need to have a referendum now to utilize the unified law enforcement levy. So what ends up happening is there's $153,000 that currently is being paid for out of this levy that if the referendum does not pass, we will not be able to pay for with this money, which means it then comes out of the general fund. If that $153,000 falls on the general fund, as you've seen from the last budget, you know, and the budget before that, and the budget before that, we run a variance of about plus $10,000 in the general fund, and that's through a lot of hard cuts. So this means capital projects, it means, you know, police cruiser, it means, you know, you just go down the list. Parks comes out of general fund, library comes out of general fund, recreation comes out of general fund, police, fire. So all of those departments would essentially have to absorb $153,000 worth of funding that's no longer available to the city. So with that in mind, to go down the path of getting it voted in, we have to notify the county and tell them that we want this election to occur on March 3rd, to consider this voting in the unified law enforcement levy, and then essentially through the budget process, we would approve one budget assuming that it does get passed and one budget assuming that it doesn't. I think the best way to go about that is just limiting capital projects and
if it doesn't get approved.
If it doesn't get approved. That's not sustainable over the long term. I mean, at a certain point.
150-year loss.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it for a year, but if it doesn't get voted in, there's gonna have to be some hard cuts that, I mean, this guaranteed decrease in service, you know.
But we've been paying this already, correct?
30,
This-
33
And
years.
it's been
Yeah.
coming out of the general fund now?
No,
No, it's been coming out of the tax levy.
It's
No,
coming
it's-
out of the unified,
Yeah, well, here's what happened, according to Peggy today, is that several years ago, Peggy files all the time, and when she files in for the reporting and stuff, just as I couldn't find all the notes on this and stuff, you know, and when it got voted in, but at that time, the response was, well, it's been going on so long now, we don't care. Well, that regime has all changed now, because it's all new people have come into office. Well, the new people come into office are going down through everything, it's not there. They want record of it, there is no record of it, so now we have to create a record.
Mhm.
And that's, if the regime had stayed the same, it still would not be a problem, but
Right.
it's changed, so.
Yeah, and so you can see it's its own levy, much like trust and agency and everything else that we do that is broken out. That 810 levy that we have for the general fund, that is the tightest funding that the city has. You know, it's the only pot of money to do most of what people consider city activities. And it gets stressed more and more every year by the lack of road use funds. We backfill from loss, you know, we backfill from everything else, but, you know, realistically, road use tax funds are supposed to cover.
so we actually have been levying for this, but now we just need a record that says we are
That we can.
levying for this.
That we can.
that the people
That we
actually
can't
voted
defeat-
for.
Right, right.
Yeah, you're right, it's been in
And-
place for 30
So it's
30
not,
years.
it's not increasing taxes.
No.
No,
It's just a formality that
no.
they want on record.
And you can see, this is last year's taxes.
Right.
It was in last year's taxes, it was in the taxes before that, before
Right.
that, before that. It's always been in place, it's not voting in a tax increase, and it's not voting in countywide law enforcement.
Right.
It's the name is deceptive. Unified Law Enforcement is actually the law enforcement center. So that's the lion's share of what's being paid for out of that levy. So by voting it in, you're not changing any of the structure of the police department. By voting it in, you're not adding new taxes. You're simply supporting the way things are handled at this point.
Make sure you get that right in the paper, will you? On the radio.
Please.
It's not a tax increase.
It's not a tax increase.
And the thing is, it's not specifically, and I think something that's deceptive also is it's not specifically about law enforcement. The ramifications of not voting this in go far beyond law enforcement.
Right.
They hit almost every single department within the city. You know, you have to find it somewhere. Money's fungible, so you go to the library, you go to parks, you go to wherever to try and to find those dollars to fill that void that's created with this tax levy potentially not being available. So, you know, I think all things equal, I think that if it is voted in, the levy's probably not going to change much because
Right.
we don't have new debt service coming online. We don't have any big projects or new requests. And so I think that you're probably gonna see a pretty stable tax levy from the city. You know, I don't know about any of the other jurisdictions, but from the city, I think we'll probably be close to that 1744 again. Was it 1742, is this new form? So, you know, it's very important that message get out there.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard because the name's deceiving. I think it's gonna be hard because it looks like a new tax, but it's not. It's something that we've had for 33 years or however many years. 5 years.
Move to approve.
Second. Roll call vote.
Goodell,
Aye.
Slater,
Aye.
Scholl,
Aye.
Rusher.
Aye.
That is the last of our scheduled items. Aaron?
I've got two things. One just kind of came up. It's not anything that there needs to be any action on, so it didn't really need to be on the agenda. Moving forward, I'm planning on having the fire protection agreements come up this year. I've left them flat, exactly where they're at this last year. We raised them significantly over the last 3 years to get them more in line. The township's paying their percentage, the city's paying their percentage, so that we're all paying according to usage on the amount of calls. I think it's in line, I think it's balanced, so I don't see any reason to increase any of the tax levies, but I didn't want to send this out, have them sign the agreement, consider it, and then come back and you go, wait a second, you needed to put that up another cent or two or whatever, so. Is everybody in consensus that that's okay to send them out like that? Okay, well, I will get that taken care of and get those agreements back in front of the council. The other thing, talked to Chris Euban. I know John and I talked about this, the streets have been very, very slippery. They've been working hard to try and get them cleaned up. Just with the very cold weather, they've had a heck of a time trying to get that hard packed snow to get it up off the street. They sanded pretty considerably.
Last Friday helped
Last
a lot.
Friday, they went out and I told them, I said, you know, just go nuts, put as much sand down as you can, because they're pretty slick, and they did. And it's starting to work in a little bit. I think it's quite a bit better. It's still a lot of snow-packed ice. They're looking to put brine down over the next, hopefully, 2 days as the temperature gets up. They put a little bit of brine down in a few spots, and it didn't do anything. It was icing up too fast. It wasn't working. So they only did it in 2 intersections and said, okay, it's not working. So we're not going to put more brine down. They're going to wait until the temperature gets up a little higher, and then it'll start to eat into that. So I wanted and he wanted to make you aware of what's going on, just in case somebody comes and says, well, why aren't they, throwing salt or throwing brine everywhere? Well, it just turned into a skate rink. The other thing I had was the Parks Department is looking to use, they have a capital project for a mower that they're that they've purchased already. That came in quite a bit less than what they anticipated the capital project. They were hoping to allocate that fund for a stump grinder. They have a lot of stumps that they haven't taken care of, and they cost a decent amount to get somebody there, and then essentially they're babysitting who's over there with the stump grinder, where it would allow them to schedule this grinding when they have free time. And with the ash borer coming along, there's gonna be a lot of grinding and a lot of trees getting cut down. And so it just made sense for them to purchase a stump grinder, but being as that wasn't what the capital project was originally for, it would be kind of reappropriating that money towards a stump grinder. I wanted to see if the council is okay with that.
What, like a new one, used one?
He's got a quote for a new one. I think it's like $5,000, something along those, five to seven, somewhere around there.
Geez, that's pretty cheap, I think.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, and make sure they don't buy a small one, because that seems awful cheap to me.
Okay.
Make sure it'll do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause it,
You don't want one that.
No, let's not.
Okay, I'll talk to them and
You've been around
make
enough
sure that
times.
they've got what they need. All right. And then, that's all I had.
Any update on the water plant?
The water plant, they're continuing to work the bugs out. It's the project that never goes away. They had the system go out again, but they're getting it, they can reboot it very quickly, but it went down one more time. And so, obviously you don't want to sign off on anything until you get that worked out. A lot of it is just getting everything to talk to each other and getting the system finished and, correctly. They're still running into a problem with the tower valves, essentially torquing too hard, over torque. I don't know what the exact term is, but and so those valves still need to be reworked a little bit. And I think there's a little bit of electrical work that they have to redo. But I mean, it's one of those things we keep going over the list, trying to get it closed out, and there's still just little nagging things that are hanging on. I mean, most of it's done, but there's, you don't want to sign off until this is done. So.
Gloria?
No, I haven't done anything.
Carol?
No.
Joel?
The planning and zoning, when do they meet? One of those meetings, is it?
Only need to meet when someone requests it.
Okay.
So like if someone's got a change, or they wanna make a change in their property, or they're trying to get a.
That's the
ZBA, okay, I'm sorry.
Planning and zoning is like,
New area.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But that only meets when we're planning new projects and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, land use, I mean, I think planning and zoning has met, in the 4 years I've been here, they've met 5 times at most. I mean, it's, when there was the wind turbine thing, when it first, that was like 2010, 2011, that they've met several times on that. They've probably, it needs to be an update, so the update on the land use and comprehensive plan at some point. I think we're working with one out of, it's over 10 years old, and so that will need to be updated at some point. And so planning and zoning would be heavily involved in that.
So is there 2 seats that are open on that, or just?
there's 2 seats on that.
Okay, that need to be filled?
Okay.
How many people are on that board? 7?
Nine.
9.
There is 7, but there should be 9.
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
Unless you quit, right?
No quitting.
It's a 6-year term?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Send it police to your door to bring in.
The one vacancy only has 5 years left.
It's a life sentence.
Could be.
It's like councilman.
Anything else, Joel? John?
No, I don't.
Dan?
No, no, so they-
Okay. With that, we need a motion to schedule Monday, January 19th, 2015, at 5:30 PM as a date and time for the next regular meeting of the Humboldt City Council, and adjourn this session at 6:39 PM.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good night.